want to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brantflakes here, back with a new Shadowverse 2 video. For today's video, I'm going to be doing, hopefully not as long of a rant as the last video, but probably still a pretty long rant about my gripes with the current meta and the reason why I think this set, while it is much better balanced theoretically, doesn't really feel as fun as the last set does. And of course, I am a Forest main, and depending on when the tier list video is posted, you'll either have the context for it or not, but I'll just say it now. I think Forest is no longer the best deck in a game. Like, it's like probably a little close, but it's not that close because of Wardhaven existing. And I'll explain why I think Forest fell from grace basically. And I'll explain that in terms of the current meta and how the games have really felt recently. So basically, the problem I have with the set is just that it feels very tempo oriented, and it feels like instead of rewarding people for very smart plays, it just rewards people for having the cards in their hand to play on the turn they're supposed to play them. And these decks that I have in the preview or in the background will just be like an example of what I'm talking about, and I'll go over like the different like routes you could go in each deck. But just let me know like in the comments if they sound familiar at all, because this is kind of the play pattern that I've noticed in every game. And of course, like, not every game is like this, obviously. The issue I'm having is that if somebody has this role, the game kind of just straight feels like it's not winnable if you don't also have a very similar high roll curve. And because of that, it feels just like the game's playing itself and it's very scripted. And while there is more balanced states because every class is closer in power level, you can tell pretty quickly what the actual really powerful decks are really quickly, because either their mid-roll curve is like really strong still, and their high roll curve is just unbeatably like rolls you over if you don't draw well, or if you're playing a deck that is quote unquote not tier 0 or not tier 1. So as always, I'll start with Forest first just because it is the class I main. Forest as well has a curve that you can play. It's not immune to this scenario, and it's essentially just like, again, curve is like play 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop, etc. And you'll notice that Odin is going to be in every single one of these, because Odin is kind of the main reason why this meta is an issue to me, because Odin is the I guess you could say like centerpiece of how boring and toxic this meta feels for me. So basically, there is a version of Forest right now that's called Tempo Forest that does play Wildheart. And obviously, again, there are cards you can play that aren't these cards specifically, but I'll just go over the very generic one in case you see it. They basically just play like Good Fairy or Convocation, and then they play a 2-drop, usually Fairy Fencer because it has better stats. And so Wildheart, clear your board, continue swing to your face, and then if you can't clear their board because you don't have a rush minion, they play Cynthia. And then if they're going second, like they can coin Fairy Fencer, Fairy Fencer. Let's say they're going second, they play Cynthia, they Evo Cynthia, they deal a bunch of damage to your face because the two fairies clear with Cynthia, and they still have existing minions, and then they Glade to board wipe your taunt, and then they have Arya to go face, and then they have Odin to go face again. And obviously, there are a lot of variations on this. Like, they could play Fairy Fae to on turn 4 instead of Cynthia to deal even more face damage. They could play like Convocation into Fairy Tamer into Amataz and kill you with the 6/6 Amataz on turn 3. And then again, they can play like Fairy Roach on turn 5 instead of Glade. There's obviously there's a huge amount of variations here, but the main thing is that Odin is the thing that, like, if you're playing Wardhaven, for example, Odin will just chomp your Wilbert, and then if you couldn't kill everything on their board because you didn't get lucky enough to draw a Grimnir early game, they will have like 9 damage on board plus Odin, which is now 7. And if you couldn't stabilize the tempo, you're gonna be at 10 HP, and Odin will just delete the taunt and have 7 damage. So they don't even need that much reach. And that's going to be true for everything. Like, obviously, again, Roach was already doing this last set, but it's now very common with every single other deck in the game. Next, Craft. I guess I'm just going over this in case you guys don't know what these look like. I'm assuming if you've played the game, you probably already know what these look like, and I'm just preaching to, like, people that already know, but whatever. Sword is like the exact same thing as last set, except now they have better quality minions in between. Like, turn 1, you guys have all experienced it, right? Like, turn 1, they flash step quick later you. Turn 2, they use Prim. She's ambushed, so you can't even kill her. Turn 3, they play Rose. The minion you traded into flash step is now dead to Rose. Turn 4, they play Luminous Lance Trooper, and they play Prim's Nandra token, and they clear your board, and they have a 3/3 taunt in the way. If they're going second, oh, now there's Zirconia. Zirconia's gonna fly out and smack you. If they're going first, well, that's what the Prim and other things for. So turn 4 is either the Prim combo or the what was her name again? Nanja Luminous Land Trooper combo, or Draconia Evo. And then once you get through that, maybe there's another Rose, or like a turn 5 play, like it's either another Draconia or Rose to again execute and clear your board. Oh, turn 6 is coming. Is it going to be Dogs? Is it going to be Vals? Is it going to be Amelia? Let's see if they have it. And then Evo Vals, they have it. And then there's now a 6 mana or 6 damage minion on the board waiting to swing. Oh, turn 7. Now they have Odin. So they Super Evo Odin, hit your face for 13 that you can't avoid. Oh, turn 8. Maybe they play Routing Tentacles because they don't have another Odin, or they play another Odin and deal another 5 to your face. Oh, turn 9. Now they have Albert and you're dead. And you can obviously, again, you can put in like Albert on turn 5, turn 6, turn 7 because they can have multiple Alberts. But like, it's just that curve is so hard to deal with. And Sword is basically like the epitome of the problem I have with this game, where it's just like, oh, they slam out a good curve card every turn. And if I can't stabilize, then I just lose to them playing the shiny numbers from their hand. And again, Sword is known for that. So I'm less peeved by Sword doing that because that's what I expect from the class. But again, every single class can do this. It is not unique to Sword anymore. Sword is just the best one at doing it, at executing it, and ironically the best class for responding to Curvecraft. So that's actually why I think Sword is actually straight up the best deck in the game right now, like the variations of Sword that exist. And again, obviously turn 6 can just be Gildaria Evo. Like they have options with their curve. And this even extends to Rune. That's how ridiculous this meta is getting, because Rune with Earthrite now also has a Curvecraft aspect where they can play turn 1 Rich's New Brew for the Sigil, and then turn 2 they have like 3 different 2-drops they can play for an extra Sigil, and it's also a body. And then turn 3, if they played Melvi, they play another Witch's Brew with another 2-drop that you have to deal with. And then turn 4, they play Edelweiss, who immediately evolves as a 4/4 and lets you play another 2-drop, and also clears your board because it's a 4/4 with deal 4 on turn 4 before Evos are even available if they're going first. And then, oh, look at that, turn 5, they play Juno, who permanently summons a 3/3 golem every single turn that you have to deal with. And if you can't, you're going to get smacked down. Oh, look at that, turn 6, they're playing Norman, who gets more golems and draws them cards in case they ran out of fuel early in the game. Oh, look at that, turn 7, now it's Odin time. Like, it's just another very difficult to deal with curve. Again, possible to beat, but to be possible to beat, you have to have the early tempo in your hand and play them and respond turn after turn after turn. Dragoncraft, ironically, we all know what Aggro Dragon looks like, so this is more like Ramp Dragon. Ramp Dragon is a bit more casino, in my opinion, because they're not really winning the game outright if they curve well. It's more of like, oh, I'm stabilizing and accelerating as quickly as I can. And so stuff like that is like occasionally, like, let's say you're going second. They prefer going second because of how Liu Feng works. Like turn 1, they coin fail up Bylane. Turn 2, they play Ruby. Turn 3, they Dragon Sign. Turn 4, they Liu Feng. Turn 5, they either get to Neptune if they have it, or they Season Merman. And then they play Fenny, and then they play their draw cards and curve out, and you can't do anything because they're at 10 mana with a half discount deck on turn 7 very quickly. And then let's say that they miss the Dragon Sign into Liu Feng. They can, or let's say that they don't have Liu Feng, they're going first. So then it's turn 1, pass, turn 2, Ruby or Phylene, turn 3, Dragon Sign, turn 4, Seasoned Merman, turn 5, just like whatever other thing they have, turn 7, Neptune, etc., etc. Like they can board clear. And I think the main thing that really gets this, I think the reason why this meta feels so bad is because there's like so many new cards from this new set that are simply gigastated for very, very small reasons. So for example, Seasoned Merman, 5 mana, Zirconia for Dragon, except they can choose to trade how they want. And also when you have Neptune available, it heals. Neptune is also a very mega giga body. It summons, it can summon up to 4 2/2s. So that's a 15/15 7 mana stat card. That is better than Kuon. Like, let that sink in for a moment. Dragon has a Super Evo card that has more raw stats than Kuon does. And granted, Kuon has more applications. It has the silly OTK scenario, but just think about the fact that this gold card for Dragon, like, this is the power level that you're dealing with this set. You have cards like Prim. Nanja is a 2/2, but when you have Prim active, it's a 3/3 ward. That's way above rate. Stuff like Rose, she is literally Kitty Canyoner, but way better because she can execute. She is essentially a evolved minion or super evolved minion, which is way above rate. I guess Sword already had like insane minions. Like again, Gildaria is just a way better Draconia. She has massive AoE. She has a super upside later in the game. She's just super overstated for tempo. Same thing for Forest. Like Cynthia is just way overstated for turn 4. And then we can go into like again, and also Rune, obviously, like Rune. Otherwise, is a 2 mana 4/4 that deals 4, super overstated. Juno summons 3 turns of 3/3s, so Juno over 3 turns isn't just a 5/5. Juno is a 14/14 for 5 mana that also deals damage to your that deals damage equal to your Earth Sigil. So she's also a double clear. And then Norman is just Norman, like Norman is just disgusting. And then Abyss, while they don't really curve out, like they don't curve out with raw stats, what they're instead doing is that they're just whacking you straight in the face because they go turn 1 Cultivator, who gives them a Storm unit. And then turn 2, they play Barrel, who is very overstat, with an obvious downside that it slaps the Abyss player. But remember, because they're playing Abyss and because of bats, that 3 damage actually doesn't matter anymore for Aggro Abyss if, again, they manage to draw well, because so turn 1 Cultivate Madness, turn 2 Barrel, turn 3 Vuela. Vuela is a genetically statted rush 3 mana rush minion that just has a bonus effect for some reason. So she can be played for tempo, or she can be held onto for a Super Evo turn where she raises the damage from Super Evo from 3 to 5 for fun. Like, she's already a fair statted 3 mana rush. Like, again, think about Kitty Cannoneer, think about Rose. They have lower stats than Vuela, and also Vuela, but Vuela also just like has more HP, so she tanks more. A lot of minions that are played on turns 1 and 2 only have 2 HP. There's like there's not a single, I don't know, yeah, there are very few unplayed minions on turn 1 and 2 that have 3 HP. So Vuela clears better than them, can soak up damage better than them, and still has an upside after all that. And then again on Barrel, you're like, oh, they're going to rush themselves down because they're doing 3 damage to themselves. Well, unfortunately, they have cards like the Winged Servants now with this new set that summons 2 1/1 copies of a bat. So instead of Barrel, they can instead play Winged Servants, which is 2 1/1s. So it's a little wide, which is difficult to deal with for a lot of boards because they don't have, not everything is Fairy. Not everything can clear 2 1/1s super easily. Not everything is Sword, who has Rifle Girl on 2/1, who can clear 2 1/1s very easily. And to add to that, on turn 5 or turn 4, if they're going second, they have Errol, which gives those minions rush. So on turn 5, they have Evo available. They can deal 5 damage from hand, and these minions do not go away. And you have to kill all of them because they heal them. So even if they played Barrel, all that damage is immediately healed by Errol with the, again, 2-card combo is like kind of rare, but it's just like, all the damage they deal, like even if you're trying to aggro them back, if they high roll the curve, you're not only trying to deal with their board, you're dealing with the fact that they're naturally at an HP advantage, despite the fact that they're playing self-hitting units. And then turn 5, obviously, Aragavi into Evo deals 3 to both, and then turn 6, Mistress of the Fang does a bit of a misnomer because I don't think many aggro decks play her, but she's here to represent like the aspect of, oh, you got a few ghosts from Cultivated Malice. So now I'm going to play like 2 ghosts plus what's-her-face, plus Exela. And then that's going to be another like 4 damage, 6 damage to face. Oh, I don't have her crafted, that's why she's not showing up. So on turn 5 or on turn 6, you can play double ghost Exela, that's 5 damage, and then you Evo Exela. Or if you're going second, you Super Evo Exela, that's 7 damage to face. And then, oh, would you look at that again? Turn 7, Odin straight to the dome in case you finally manage to clear the board, but you have only 1 taunt or no taunts. They have Odin to go smack you on the face. And worst comes to worst, they always have Cerberus for a 3 damage finisher with like I don't even think they play Cerberus. That's how degenerate Aggro Abyss is. But it's just another example of like, they're going to curve, and if you do not meet their curve, you will die. Moving on, Haven, not really the most notorious. Like, it's notorious because when they curve, they get the full value of Wilbur into Aether, into Jean, but it's like not a curve. Or I guess it is a curve that kills you, but it's not a curve that is snowballing from the beginning. Like turn 1, they're playing Serene Sanctuary. Turn 2, like Sarissa into Holy Shield Maiden into Avian Statue. Those are very tame. But imagine they're going second, and then they coin out. Like let's say they don't have to play Salefa. Like let's say that you're not lucky, and so your hand, you have no pressure early on. So they have coin on their turn 4, or on their turn 5. they get to coin out Wilbert, and then on their turn 6, they coin out Aether. So you're dealing with the exceedingly broken combo, or like very stat-heavy combo of Wilbert into Aether a full turn before you would be if they're going first. And then obviously after that, it would be Jean. Jean is a very good, like if you leave any Aether minions alive, Jean will help them deal like 1 billion damage. They also have Olivia, and then they can also run Odin to burst you down because Aether Ward or Ward Haven has like a storm problem, quote unquote, but they can always just play their own storm cards. Like they could be on turn 6, Avian Statue, rush your face down, or they can play Odin, rush your face down, or they can play Lapis and like Super Evo Lapis, and then she'll die and then she'll come back, etc. And again, extends to Portal. Portal in the past had to rely on Orcus to really finish people off, Orcus into Liam, but now with this new set, say it with me, they have Odin to round it out, and now they even have Zwei to round out their curve because they used to have a really, really bad turn 5. Like Puppet used to have the worst turn 5, I think, out of any class in the game, but now they have Zwei, and Zwei, to be fair, isn't insane, but she does provide like a 6-1 rush that will stay alive, and so you have to deal with it because you're not going to let 6 damage go to your face next turn for free, which means that you have to spend removal on that minion after she cleared something already, and maybe she evoed, so it's like a 6-1 and a 5-5, which isn't that hard to deal with, but it does put you behind on tempo, and then you deal with that, and then Noah gets free value, and then you deal with Noah, and then suddenly they Odin you in the face for 7, and then the next turn is going to be Orcus with Super Evo, and if you weren't able to deny them their puppet tempo, that means you probably took like 5 damage because of how decently statted these puppets are early on. And not even to mention that because you play puppets, you have better reach with Orcus because you might have an enhanced puppet or a Noah buff puppet. So like any scratch damage, even ignoring all the scratch damage, if they just do Odin Super Evo into Orcus Super Evo, that's 7 damage from Odin, and then Orcus can be up to 11 damage with an enhanced puppet. And so, actually, it could be even more because you can sack off, it's not really often you get to sack off Floyd, but let's say you get to sack off Floyd, you can deal up to 12 damage with Noah puppets with an enhanced puppet. So you can potentially die from taking 1 or 2 points of scratch damage from just Odin Orcus. And they don't even have to Super Evo Odin. They can just play normal Odin, deal 4 damage, and then Orcus with 2 Super Evos, and you're dead. And so the issue I'm having is that literally every single class has this type of curve, and if you aren't curving as well, you just lose. And Odin is the, again, cornerstone of that really toxic behavior. So, like, it's most noticeable against Abyss because Abyss has that problem, or has that privilege of when they curve super well, they just keep going. Like, it's just like, oh, like, because of how much storm they have, you dealing with their board is barely an inconvenience because they just keep storming and throwing at your face. So they'll deal, it's like what, 2+2, so it's 10 damage from Evos potentially, and then Balso is unavoidable, and then not even mentioning that their 2-4 taunt, their 2-4 rush can add 2 extra damage per Super Evo. So just from Evos alone, you might be taking 14 damage from Abyss that you can't really deal with unless you're craft with a lot of taunts and a lot of heals. But even if you have taunts, they can Odin it, and even if you have heals, you still have to deal with their board and heal at the same time, which is a privilege that's really only given to Rune at the moment. So ironically, now that I'm saying it, Rune has gone from a class that's struggling against aggro to probably being the best slow deck, quote-unquote, against aggro. And that brings me to another point of where the game is really just these tempo boards fighting against tempo boards, and it becomes a soft rock, paper, scissors, where it's essentially, oh, like, how invested is your deck into tempo, and how well can you play against that tempo, how well are you rewarded from that tempo, and how much can your deck ignore that tempo, if that makes sense. So Force, unfortunately, doesn't have the privilege of ignoring tempo unless you're playing Roche Carbuncle. The issue is that now, because of how powerful every deck's tempo is, in the past, what Force would do a lot to cheese out a lot of games, the reason why Force was easily tier 0 and easily the best deck in the game was because most of the crafts had very, very weak turns. So like, let's just use an example, like Runecraft, for example. They needed to have exactly Angrea, Kuon to really, or just like Blaze Destroyers plus, you know, Shikigami. They needed to have those specific cards to really pressure Forest. But now They don't need to have that insane lucky curve with Shikigami and Blaze Destroyers. Now they can play Norman with Golems, and that's enough pressure because that's like equal amount of pressure because those 3/3s and Norman being a 7/7 if they normal Evo, you can't ignore that as Forest, so put 2 on a clock. And the clock is further exacerbated by the fact that they can run Odin. If they're playing Earthrite, they will be hitting you in the face. And if they're playing Spell Boost is still pretty favored, to be fair, against or I think Roach is still probably Spell Boost's worst matchup. But the issue is, again, like, now Norman exists, so they have more consistency in the mid game, where in the past they didn't have much, if anything, to deal with you. They now can summon more barriers that you have to deal with and have to burn resources, and you might die to. And again, you probably won't die to it as a Roach player, but just an example of they didn't have that threat before. Same thing goes for Ramp Dragon. Ramp Dragon didn't really have the best like turn 5, 6, or 7 play, or 5, 6, 7 mana play, because what they're really trying to ramp for was they're trying to get into Garyu and then play Garyu to punish you. But now they have the ability to play Seasoned Merman and Neptune, and these are major threats that you have to deal with or they will kill you with Reach via Odin or via Genesis Dragon later on. And these are also cards that conditionally heal, so now not only, like, again, Roach is suffering because not only is this deck that this crap that used to be like almost auto win, they now have significantly more HP, like oftentimes like at least 8 more HP if they manage to play Neptune once. It's just a free 8 HP unless they like have no Mermans in hand somehow. They're also playing way better minions, so you have to use more resources. You have to evo more loosely to clear these minions. You can no longer greed out evos by like playing lilies and Maze suboptimally, quote unquote, to save evos. You now have to evo Glade or these lilies in order to clear these boards, which means that your carbuncle won't be as consistent if you don't draw it early because you might have to burn everything before those carbuncles. Haven is a really great example of this like counter meta thing because Roach can't even deal with these things. But the issue with Haven is that like it isn't even that insane against most of the game, because I was watching a few people play Aggro Abyss, and Aggro Abyss should be countered by Haven, right? But the issue is that if Haven doesn't high roll their early draw, they can die on Wilbert turn because of Odin. They can die before Wilbert turn if they don't have any early game. Like, that's how fast Abyss can kill them. And then even despite that, like, Haven, like, the Aether stats, they don't matter versus Ramp Dragon if Ramp Dragon has Twilight Dragon on time to -9 their HP and stats. Haven doesn't, like, all those raw stats don't matter against Rune because Rune has stuff like William, Rune has stuff like Kuon to cheese, Rune has stuff like Cosidas Decline to, like, just cheese out these slower decks. Like, Wardhaven doesn't... I think Wardhaven is decently better against Portal, but the issue is that Portal plays stuff like the Mecha, Portal has like Gamma Spam, Portal has a better early game into way thicker minions that have actual health pools, Portal has Orcus with Bane, like, and Abyss, not even speaking of Abyss, like, even Control Abyss, like Midrange Abyss, they have stuff like Mukon that deletes these wards. They have so many things that deal with these wards that even Haven, like, it's just like a rock, paper, scissors. Like, Haven destroys Forest, technically does all right into more tempo-based decks, but if there's any win con that is better later than theirs, like if they can't win straight up with Sleifa, Wilbur, Aether, Jean, then they're probably going to lose the game to many of the meta decks. And it just keeps going on and on. Like, basically, the issue is that the best decks are the ones, again, that play tempo, that play best in the tempo, or, if in the case of Spell Boost Rune, can just ignore the concept and issue of tempo altogether because of the amount of raw HP they've added. And that's probably the actual... I mean, okay, yeah, that's the issue with the set. Other issue I have is that because of how powerful they have made tempo and how, like, literally they power creeps aggro. I think Abyss, ironically, does lose the aggro sword and maybe loses the aggro dragon. But the issue is that it only loses to those decks because those decks have, like, more efficient way. Like, those decks run board clears to counter other aggro decks, and Abyss doesn't. Abyss is super all-in on aggro, but Abyss is also the only aggro deck that consistently kills by, like, turn 5 or turn 6. Like, even Face Dragon, which would kill you by, like, turn 7 or 8 because they would need double Forte. Sword would probably kill you on turn 8 with the Centurion, or maybe turn 7 at best with Tentacles. Abyss is by far the fastest deck in the game that we've seen yet by a huge margin. And so what they have to do in order to balance that for these slower decks like Rune, Portal, and Haven is, or like Rune, Portal, and Dragon, is that now these classes have immense healing. So if you're not playing one-shot Roach, you just get walled out because they have so much HP and so many extra taunts. And Sword is ironically immune to that issue because they have their minions are so much more beefy that they can actually stick around and get extra value and like trade a little longer. And also, adding to that, Sword doesn't rely on massive combo strings in order to get the damage. They just have singular fat minions that will slap the face really, really hard. And all that is to say that I thought Portal was probably going to be the best deck in the game, but I think the best deck in the game now is... I'll talk about the tier list video, but I think Sword is number 1, and then very close behind it is Rune. Oh, no, my bad. Aggro Abyss is maybe objectively not the strongest deck, but it's so fast that ladder... As a ladder deck, like if you're just trying to farm pure ranked points, Aggro Abyss is like tier -1. But if you're rating objective like actual deck power and how it responds to the meta and how it deals with all the like shenanigans that exist in the game, I think Sword is easily number 1, Runecraft is number 2, and Portal's number 3. I think Forest has fallen down to being the 4th best class with Carbuncle because Abyss, like Aggro Abyss, is literally a solitaire game for the Aggro Abyss player. Either they draw everything or they don't. Because if they draw everything, Forest literally cannot stop them. And if they don't draw everything, you still have to draw an early board to kill them. And then obviously there's Wardhaven, which just murders you. And then every other deck, like again, Sword, Rune, Dragon, Portal, like if you don't draw your curve early enough, you will lose because now they have way more pressure significantly earlier and significantly more consistently. And then same thing with Control Abyss, like they just have better cards later on that they didn't have before to kill you with. So again, like it's just weird because the game does feel a lot more balanced, but the balance doesn't come from like skill expression. Balance is coming from the fact that a lot of the new cards just shunted crafts way up into certain power levels and filled holes that really probably should have been left open for weaknesses, to like give some nuance to how you deck build. Because a lot of, I guess this is kind of like extending the video a little longer than it should go, but a lot of the new cards are just fixing things that probably didn't need to be fixed. Like Norman, for example. Norman is a heal 8. Norman can heal you almost half your HP while still being a 7/7 that your opponent probably has to deal with. And that's ignoring the fact that Rune has Sage Light to heal another amount of HP, and ignoring the fact that Norman can be ran as a 3 of, so with Norman alone, you can heal literally 24 HP. So with Sage Lights and Norman, Rune now has an effective health pool, assuming they're allowed to play it, of 50, is that right? 56? Because it's 3 Normans, which is 12, plus 12. Oh no, 3 Normans, which is 24, plus 12 from Sage Light. So Rune, as a class that isn't even like a healer class, like the fantasy of Rune is like spell slinging and like earth, like alchemy. This class, just in every deck they want to play, has an effective health pool of 56 HP. And they can play that on curve. They can play like, I mean, obviously it's not efficient. Like they'll probably die doing this, but they can like Sage Light through declimb shenanigans later on. But they can play turn 5 Coin Norman, turn 6 Norman, turn 7 Norman, and then maybe they'll have declimb. I mean, this is kind of like, this is a real reach because I don't know how you're gonna get declimb. Maybe you have Burgent active beforehand, but like let's say you got lucky with Burgent and your Angreas, you just like turn 4 Angrea, turn 5 Angrea, turn 6, turn 7, turn 8 Norman, because you played Earthrite Rune earlier, and then you like declimb into Sage Light. Like that is possible with Runecraft now. They can actively heal 56 or 36 HP by turn 10 if they high roll hard enough. That is the power level of this game right now, and I'm so terrified of what they'll do in the future, because like they will not keep Aggro Abyss in its current iteration as the strongest aggro class going forward. Aggro Abyss will either get better, which is terrifying to think about, or another class will have a better version of aggro to replace it, because we are not getting rid of cards and also nerfing them. We are simply getting more cards. So if Aggro Abyss, like if classes start potentially dying at turn 5 consistently because of new Abyss cards, that means we have to somehow power creep runecraft healing to a lot more classes, because now more classes need to be able to heal out of death range by turn 5 or deal with that by turn 5, because we're making the game even faster. And then in the mid-range section, let's say that mid-range has to deal with combo decks and like actually have a win con, these minions have to get even fatter than what exists through like, you know, like Merman and Gildaria. Like Gildaria is an insanely strong card at turn 6 because she's just Zirconia on steroids, which is insane to think about, because Zirconia was already like pretty notorious. I guess she wasn't like the best card after a while, because everyone has like, they had to design AoE on turn 4 and 5 for Zirconia specifically, so that every class wouldn't just die instantly to Zirconia on curve. But Gildaria is literally just power creep Zirconia. So how are we power creeping Gildaria? Like, we're either giving Gildaria power level to more crafts, or we're power creeping Gildaria, which is terrifying to think about because Gildaria is already so strong. So I think the game is more balanced, but the balance doesn't come from intelligent gameplay. It's coming from just, hey, do you have the cards? If not, enjoy your loss. And that really sucks. Anyways, hope this rant was interesting. I think it was a little less interesting than the other one, but it's just me being really salty and bitter about the current state of the game. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day or night wherever you are, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.